Hello guys, welcome back, and I'm just having an early morning coffee. It's Sunday and it's dead quiet here, and I'm just getting ready to go out for another little walk on the lanes before it gets too hot. I'm going to finish my coffee and we'll have a little walk and talk, and we'll probably do a little bit of a talk about expats and Portugal related living and how it affects us and how and why we're here. So yeah, let me finish this and we'll get out on the trail. So yeah, let's start this properly. Welcome back and welcome to central Portugal with me while I'm out walking on the actual lanes. I call them fire roads, but that's just me giving, they probably are fire roads up in the mountains. And yeah, I will be going up there for a hike soon, and I'll bring you along. And that will be, I've been going up the Gardenia range. It's pretty much an annual thing when I come here. But there's a horseshoe around a whole village or small settlement called Castello Nova, I believe it's called. And it's got a river that runs through it and a swimming setup, or a swimming river as they call it. And yeah, there's a big horseshoe, and I think there's a trail that goes not just from the top of the mountain right the way around the settlement and comes down again. From what I understand, I can't guarantee that. I may actually be on a fool's errand, or I may be forging my own trail. But that's my main effort for my own personal gratification while I'm here. But yeah, and if I'm not doing that, I'm doing family things, I'm out on these trails. Now, the track I'm walking on now isn't like the one I shown you in the previous video. That one's on a, well, higher than this one. This is the low one that comes into the back of the village. But I always walk it at least once while I'm here, because it just gives you a different perspective. One thing you will notice in central Portugal is this type of wall, which is made out of the local granite, or predominantly granite. And yeah, there are some pretty hefty lumps of rock, and it's everywhere. And it makes for an interesting landscape compared to the rolling valleys and open green fields of the UK. Obviously, I'm used to seeing big lumps of granite up on Bodmin Moor, but here, some of these granite boulders are absolutely, well, humongous. Now, we're in central Portugal because my wife, Jamie's dad, has actually moved here. He is actually a permanent resident, and obviously we have the option to come here and stay here with the generosity that he provides and the community and his friends around him that enable us to come here and stay, being absolutely honest, you know, not trying to pull a wool over anybody's eyes, extremely cheaply. Because I'm on a lower plane, I mean, we were walking on the higher ground above this little plateau going into the village, and as you can see, the sun is quite high already. And trying to film in this direction is a no-go. But you can see how blazing that sun is already. They do actually do a lot of like sheep farming around here. and there are flocks in amongst all this. You wouldn't believe it, but they do actually, with this yellow grass and whatever else they feed them, they do seem to keep these sheep going. So we catch the ferry from Plymouth and drive down to Santander, down through Spain, over the mountains, down through the plains, and then cross over the Estrella kind of range and come through into central Portugal. And it's a long, arduous drive, particularly with 2 young kids. But it's still that feeling of we're going on a road trip, and even though we're all knackered, burnt out, and he's suffering heat exhaustion, even with aircon in the car, yeah, it's still part of our experience coming here, the road drive in itself. I'm just taking a moment under these cork oaks. And you'll find most of them have been stripped at some point for their cork. They harvest the cork off them. I've mentioned that before. It's quite unusual, well, you know, for us in the UK to see trees stripped of bark. These tend to seem to thrive on it, but I don't recommend doing that to your tree at home, stripping the bark off, because it would probably kill it. These, though, actually seem to yeah, seem to survive the harvesting process. It's been done for hundreds and hundreds of years in any case. So as I've mentioned, my father-in-law has a group of friends and a small community here, and we've been able to kind of like jump on the back of that and slot right in, and they've made us feel extremely welcome, allowing us to use their homes, pools, and you know, offered us food and hospitality. So it's been absolutely wonderful. The expat community here has opened their arms to us, yeah, readily. But it's not just expats in British. We've met people of all different nationalities, and in fact we became, well, we would like to think they're really good friends from America, Wisconsin, and they come over, or have been coming over, and yeah, it's been a really positive experience for us to come over here and meet all these people. Oh, a nice shady lane. I'm taking advantage of this. I'm sliding into the left hand side to keep in the shade, and yeah, whenever you're walking, you'll find yourself zigzagging to make sure that you're extracting the most benefit from shade that you can get. Now, the first time we came over here, we didn't have our dogs, so we did actually stay a month. And while we were here, we were also looking for a small little off-grid property. And yeah, I did do a few videos about that, and that is an experience in itself, and a little bit of an eye-opener. And on top of that, it made me realise that I was probably a little bit naive, and not only naive, I was a little bit underprepared, and yeah, but it was still a positive experience. And I won't lie, in the comments I saw a few which I will respond to when I get back and have breakfast. I did see that some people suggested about Portugal buying some land or actually moving here. So yeah, let's talk about that. Right then, these here, I'll get my camera the right way so the sun doesn't affect it too much. These here, most people will probably know what they are, but they're eucalyptus, and this is what generally is considered a major fire hazard. Once they go up, because of the oils in the tree, they actually, well, They burn really well, shall we say. And we are in fire season. And I had an interesting chat last night with the father-in-law. And he was telling me that they've arrested a load of arsonists over here in central Portugal, or Portugal in general, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But it seems that not all the wildfires are natural. It seems like some people, for whatever reason, you know, unbeknown to themselves, that they do actually start wildfires. God knows why. Now, a lot of this green stuff here is grown to actually feed to their sheep. And yeah, it's not uncommon to find small little, well, homesteads or large gardens with loads of that stuff growing to help feed and keep their livestock going. Here we have a nice stone walled building here. That's in pretty good condition compared to some of the stuff I see here. It's got a chimney, so they've obviously got a fire in there. It's not a habitation, it's just something that I think they come here and use or possibly stay in while they're working the land. Right, I'm using the shade of this building to actually show you this kind of little... There is a river down here and it's the bottom of the high ground. I don't want to go too... As you can see, it rises up to a hill there. And that's where I walked the other day. But this lowland bit of ground here must hold a little bit of moisture underneath the surface because it's divided up into various allotments or plots. And they're growing vines, fruit trees, there's wells, there's sheep grazing, olive trees. And you can see an assortment of stone buildings along this track, which helps support them with their agricultural efforts here. And this is a pretty typical setup of what you'll find in central Portugal, particularly in the lower areas and off the mountains anyway. So if you've watched my channel and heard me talk about being frugal and living a low maintenance lifestyle with not a lot of money, well, you're probably thinking, you know, well, you're out in central Portugal, but I've kind of half explained that our costs are extremely minimal because quite simply, we have family here and a very welcoming community. In fact, I saw one of the guys that let us stay in his place last time we were over here. And I said, yeah, I thanked him, you know, very much for doing so. And he just said, yeah, no problem, no problem. It was no problem for them to let us stay there. And he's invited us up to his place just off the mountains this coming week. So we're heading off to his new place. So yeah, it is like that. And I think if you're humble and extremely welcoming and open-hearted in places like this, you can find people are still willing to open up their lives to you in some regard, which possibly wouldn't be the same back in the UK in the bigger cities. So there is still some of that community spirit by the expats that have moved out, or they formed what was possibly in the UK here. And I guess that's possibly a little bit why a lot of them have moved here. There's another look at another stone building, obviously supporting their agricultural efforts on this bit of ground here. I'm trying to hide away from the sun. It's really quite glaring. Obviously I'm shooting on this track facing into the sun. It's a little bit difficult. But yeah, you can see how it's divided up into various different properties. There's a newer bit of building and obviously the old ruin there as well. And this is an old building. You can see that, look, you can see the stones. Look at the stones on those. Massive, great pieces of rock. Got a little bridge or water culvert here. As you can see, no water is running, but when it does actually rain, it absolutely thunders down these little gullies. A little bit of a rise. I'm a little bit later out today. I was just enjoying my coffee on the veranda just a little bit too much. It would have been tempting just to have sat there, but like with everything, just get out and push yourself to go and do something. I always feel better in myself if I've done something for myself selfishly. The only way I compensate for that is doing it while the rest of the family are in bed or just basically chilling out. So as for the types of people out here, it's extremely varied and for very different reasons. Obviously, I suppose the big one, the modern one that we have to throw out there is Brexit. You've got the pre-Brexit group of people and the after-Brexit group of people. Obviously, as long as the people that were here beforehand had done all the correct paperwork and met the criteria, it was a lot easier for them to stay. Whether, you know, you were just had a residency, or I don't think most people I've met are natural or citizens now or have converted over to be citizens. Most are residents, but obviously it was still easier to get that kind of paperwork. You did have criteria to meet. You can't just say that, you know, you could just literally tip up and just do what you want. Although a lot of people have always assumed Portugal is a place that you can just do what you want. And that is part of the reason that things are kind of changing over here, politically, socially and economically. It's becoming a lot harder for people just to come here and assume that they can do what they want, which is what a country should have anyway. But we're not going to talk about that side of things. The after Brexit people, it's a lot harder. I mean, you have to be more stringent in your paperwork. You're being able to prove that you have incomes and the requirements to stay here. But I have met people that have made that work and happen. We've met people living the off-grid lifestyle, and they've been very warm and welcoming to us. And I'd like to go back and see them while I'm over here. And yeah, they're doing the completely off-grid thing, and they're also doing it possibly a little bit under the radar. But hey, that's their call. And then you've got people here that are doing it completely different way round. And yeah, they've bought property, done it up. I think you would call them digital nomads. They're actually working, doing office work remotely while over here type of thing, but they're able to prove it as an income. Obviously pay taxes here, I would guess. I'm not sure in the situation, but yeah, we've met a wide variety of situations and circumstances. And if you want to make it work and make it happen, and you had the means to do it, it's still, you know, a good viable option. Just a little bit of a rise here. I'm going to be going back into the sun, I think, in a moment. This track is actually quite serviceable by vehicles. As you can see, there's a vehicle just parked there where they can go and work their allotments. Now you're probably thinking back to something I said earlier in this video, that we did come over here on the first occasion and have a look at some properties. Well, yes, we did think about buying a cheap property just as a little bolt hole to come over here. How was I going to afford it? Well, quite simply, I would have had to borrow and pay it back when I got my lump sums from my pensions, which ironically I've just had some of them, because obviously I'm 55 and I'm claiming some of my private pensions. So that was how we was going to fund that little. I mean, I'm not trying to kid anybody that I'm loaded or have money. I don't. I live hand to mouth. So like I said, I would have had to borrow and pay back when I got my lump sums. So you can clearly see I'm not somebody who has a wallet full of cash. But that was what our plan was. And I won't lie, we have had a little look around online again while we're out here. And there's two schools of thoughts. Either buy a cheap house and property, renovate it and do it up, or do it to a standard we can live in it comfortably while we're over here for short periods of time, or get a piece of land where we can bring a caravan or van life situation, just so we have somewhere we can stay while we're over here. It's never or was never going to be permanent as a move, particularly now we've got dogs and the young kids. Our young kids are doing quite well at school, so I wouldn't really want to disrupt that. Now that is a cork oak there, and you can see it's been stripped of its bark. I can't zoom in, I don't know what's up with my camera. I'll have to play about when I get back. I seem to have lost my ability to zoom in and out. But yeah, you can see hopefully the cork left on the branches there. But the trunk has got like a dark chocolate mahogany coloured inner bark which has been left, but the outer grey bark, which is the cork itself, has been stripped. So if I didn't have kids and the dogs, I'd probably be a little bit more risque or more of a chancer, or just somebody who would you know, throw the dice and see where it landed. How can I put it this way? I'm not trying to make excuses for inaction or being indecisive, but yeah, it's a real hard push when, I mean, we've got huskies and this heat would be absolutely brutal for them unless you had, you know, a decent enough aircon situation going on, and you really set your place up to cater for their needs. And then obviously the kids and the wife, they do suffer a little bit with the heat. And but hey, if you've got a place set up, I've just come across some goats. Yeah, just watch those goats go past. And what is very, very pleasant and heartwarming is most of the locals will have the, oh, flies. They're obviously following the goats, I think. But no, they'll have an amused attempt to recognise how you're trying to communicate with them in very, what would be pretty poor Portuguese by their standard, but it never ceases to cause them amusement, and they always seem to make allowances. But you know, if you're in Portugal, make the attempt to, it's always better to make the attempt, and you know, just try to be pleasant, nice, and somebody that if they see you around, at least they know, you know, he's not a grumpy old guy. He's going to make the attempt to kind of at least say hello or good morning to them. Yeah, so getting back to that particular topic, my kids are my biggest concern, although they're loving it. I mean, yesterday they went swimming in the lake, and then they had 2 sessions of a couple hours each in Grandad's pool. So they're loving life at the minute, but it's way different than actually living here full time, as you know, because when you're on holiday, it's all romantic, and it's all kind of you know, rose tinted glasses or you're just looking at things from an absolutely blissful situation. Living here is probably no different than living in the UK from the point of view you still have to live, and all you've got your, well, living arrangements and finances to sort out. And I'm sure, you know, not everybody's living that perfect life that we might think they are out here. I got some properties just on the outskirts of the village now that still have a bit of ground, because some of the properties in the town don't actually have ground attached to them or gardens. Some do, some don't. Some of them will have these allotments that they'll walk out to. But let's continue down this track. I'm getting thirsty now. So as I've said, it would be, we did consider it as a bolt hole, just to have somewhere we could easily shoot over. And yeah, stay here, be with family for a while and shoot back to the UK. And we've met plenty of people over here that are doing that particular situation. In fact, where we're staying to at the moment, the gentleman's doing that kind of setup himself. But putting that to one side, could I actually move here full time? Well, I don't have the financial means to do it. I would have to rent my house out to give me an income with my pensions that would give me the financial means to stay here, because you have to prove that you have an income and can support yourself over here. So unless I found work, which would be extremely difficult unless I really upped my Portuguese language skills, and mine are extremely basic, just like hello, goodbye, thank you, that sort of thing. Yeah, I'm listening and trying to learn a little bit more as we spend our time over here. But yeah, I would have to rent my place out in the UK. That comes with a load of issues, problems in its own right, and risks. And yeah, just selling up my property and coming over here, it wouldn't, because I don't get my state pension. My private pension wouldn't be enough to fund me on its own. So yeah, I would have to have an income from my place rented, and I don't feel comfortable with that. Right, I'm starting to come back into the village now, off the agricultural land, all the wide open spaces. And yeah, I can smell all the fruit in the trees as you walk past. Now, as a surfer, Portugal is quite a destination, and I have been over to Nazir and had a look, and been down to the coast at Padish, and yeah, when I've always been there, it's been not much surf or flat. Do I make the effort to go over to the coast a lot? Quite simply no, because central Portugal's just that little bit too far for it to be, you know, I'm just popping down the coast for a surf. And spending long periods of time in a car in heat, and basically if you're in the car, you feel like you're wasting time. So I've kind of got my head around the fact this isn't really a surf destination where I'm living to here in central Portugal. It's more, I use the rivers, the lakes and the pools, and swim and basically get out hiking and walking. That's how I content myself. If I lived closer to the coast, definitely I would be all over it. But as with everything in life, you make do and you work around the circumstances and situations you got. Now, that time we were over here for nearly a month, I did have access to a push bike or a mountain bike, not of any real good condition, but it was still a push bike that I can multiply the distance I could go from where we were staying without a car journey, and I really enjoyed that. Just being out, the freedom to just literally go along all the tracks, fire roads, lanes, and I went miles. In fact, it got to the point on some occasions, the mountains, which are a fair distance away from where we're staying, as they look to the naked eye, on some occasions they seem to be getting a damn sight closer. That's when I knew I had to turn around. But yeah, there's a lot of freedom to be gained from a push bike, and I think electric bike over here to help assist you, particularly within the heat, and well, somebody of my age and above, would be an absolute godsend and a pleasure at the same time. Well, I've just come down this road, or a trackway. It's leading onto a tarmac road now, and I'm looking at the village now, and I'm about to go up into it. There's a big river culvert here, so you can see the amount of water they do get here, even though everything looks dry at the moment. You probably guessed why I'm walking right beside this wall. As you can see on the cobbled street, I'm seeking shade. Right, let's come up here. There's a maze of little alleys and streets that you can go and explore, which I will do possibly on another walk. There's loads of estate agent signs all over the place. Properties and land are for sale quite readily here, and that's what I mean. It always, you see something and it tempts you into that idea that you could make a fantasy situation reality. But yeah, let the car go past. But yeah, it's a case of yeah, the practicalities of it, and on top of that, the courage to do it. There you go, there's another alleyway. Those shutters help keep the heat out of the glass windows. Right, I'm back up on the road and trundle back to mine. Right, head up through this street here. Everybody's outside the cafes and places like that. The morning gatherings. Right, instantly cool. And this is a typical Portuguese small village with the houses and that. A lot of French cars as well, so there must be a lot of French people who've bought places and done up as holiday. I'll go this way. Yeah, a lot of French people must have bought places here in central Portugal for holiday accommodation, done them up. There's a nice big boulder that was probably too inconvenient to move when they built the properties, so they've just incorporated it into the building, as you can see there. Right, a load of towels there. They've probably been swimming, or would have been swimming, I guess, with that out. It's all kids' towels, so they've been swimming. Ah, right, let's get on the road home. And you will see this quite readily in central Portugal. Some houses or even streets will be completely dilapidated and run down, like this group of houses here. The 2 or 3 on the end look like people are living in them or doing them up, but you can see these here are in a state of disrepair. Take a lot of work to get that back, but people are doing it. They are being snapped up by people, particularly foreign people, and that's why I think they're kind of trying to clamp down on all this, or make it harder for people just to well, not harder, they're just trying to make sure things are a little bit more fairer to the locals, I think. So I hope that video was of some interest, or just, you know, a random video of a guy walking through central Portugal village lanes and a village, and just explaining why we're here and the situation from my point of view, you know, the expat community that we've encountered. And when I say expat, I'm talking all nationalities, to be honest with you, we've encountered, and it's all been positive for us. In fact, it's heartbreaking when you go home and have to experience the lack of community feel, but I'm not going to keep going on about that sort of thing. But yeah, central Portugal has always been good to us, and we enjoy coming back, and long may it continue. Will anything more substantial come of it? I don't know. Watch this space. Till then, this is Andy in central Portugal, and take care, stay safe, and I hope to catch you guys on the trail.